Hello, we are Hosa Red Pulse, and we are a group of 6 individuals planning to compete at ILC Hosa, which is the international stage for a medicine competition offered at our school. In this competition, we plan to compete in the community awareness category, where we will spread awareness about the national blood shortage. In the following clip you are about to witness, we are going to present to a group of people at the local library and just spread awareness about the national blood shortage and about the blood donation process, along with common misconceptions. My name is Bruce Joshi, and I'm a sophomore at Barrington High School. I decided to pursue HOSA and research about the national blood shortage because I volunteer at the American Red Cross Center, and seeing patients come in and donate blood really inspired me to research about this cause.
Hi, my name is Omar Rizvi. I'm a sophomore and I'm in 10th grade. I wanted to do the HOSA because I think it's a gateway into medicine, and also because my mom is a doctor, so I've always been interested in how she does medicine.
Hi, my name is Hosa Red. I'm a sophomore, and I got into HOSA because both my parents are doctors, and I thought that getting into HOSA would help me explore the professions and allow me to get into the profession.
Hello, my name is Rishan Patel. I'm a sophomore. I'm 16 years old. Go to Barrington High School. This is my second year in HOSA. And I decided to pursue this project in the national blood shortage because I have the opportunity that both my parents are doctors, and I can go and volunteer in professional health settings and in my parents' local clinics. And through their discussions, I've heard about there being a shortage of blood in hospitals, and that's what sort of enabled me to pursue this project.
I'm Pranav Adhikari. I'm a sophomore, and I decided to join HOSA because my mom's a nurse. So ever since I've been young, I've always wanted to understand and pursue medicine. So I decided that HOSA would be a good way to try to learn more about medicine.
I'm Naman Singh. I am a freshman. I have joined HOSA and specifically this project because I volunteer at the American Red Cross Donation Center. That is where I heard about the shortage of blood and its scope, and is the reason I decided to join this project.
HOSA stands for Healthcare Occupation Students of America, and it is a club offered at the Barrington High School so that students can pursue their passion of competing in a medicinal field. Every 2 seconds, someone in the U.S. needs blood. Blood is very high in demand, but the needs cannot be met because only 3% of age-eligible donors donate yearly. Blood cannot be bioengineered, highlighting the demand of blood within the nation and why blood donations are so crucial towards this cause. In January 2024, the American Red Cross declared a national emergency due to the shortage of blood. We've had the lowest number of donors in the last 20 years, with a 40% decrease in the number of people donating. Through this and this large problem within the nation, we wanted to research this project through the national blood shortage, and through our research, we conducted a survey, and through our results, we found that 56.9% of people have never even heard about the national blood shortage, and 51.7% have never even donated in the past. This is shocking, as this problem is such a large problem within the nation, yet this is such an unheard of problem for many people. And one donation can save up to 3 lives, highlighting how just one person's help can do so much towards the cause.
In terms of contributions, in our first blood drive on January 25th at Epic Urgent Family Care, we had 22 donors, collected 24 packets of blood, and had 16 first-time donors, potentially saving 72 lives. In our second blood drive on March 2nd at MVP Fieldhouse Lake Zurich, we had 19 donors, collected 19 packets of blood, and had 16 first-time donors. As a result, we were able to save 57 lives. In addition to these blood drives, we focus on spreading awareness about this issue in our community. First, from November 19th to 23rd, we had a 5-day campaign on Instagram where every day of the week we posted some information about the national blood shortage. This led to our neighborhood awareness campaign and fundraising campaign starting on November 27th and raised funds for University Blood Research Institute. On January 24th, we had an article posted about our missions in the BHS Rhonda, which is on their website. And lastly, in March, we started writing about our experiences with this project for an article yet to be published in the Barrington Quintessential magazine.
Our key takeaways. During our research, we found 2 major things that seem to have limitations within our research or through our spread of awareness. We found that the South Asian community has very limited engagement with our work with the national blood shortage. this is brought up by two people that we'd like to introduce you to. This is Rishan's aunt and Rishan's mother. They were unable to join us here today. However, during both of our blood drives, they were unable to donate blood and were deferred because they were both deemed iron deficient. Now, we know iron deficiency can have a major problem with trying to donate blood. However, many people use this as an excuse that I am iron deficient, therefore I cannot donate. However, this is not true, and it leads to an unwillingness to try to even donate, thus leading to the national blood shortage continuing to go on. The second group that we found to be very limited in our engagement were teenagers, just like ourselves. This graph shows the engagement with teenagers and adults during 2021, which showed how teenagers had very limited engagement with donating blood compared to the older generations, as they were unfamiliar with it and weren't able to take on responsibilities. During our campaign, we had so many major ways to try and spread awareness. We created Instagram posts. We were hosted on our school's BHS TV. We hosted many blood drives, had many flyers, and hung them around our school. However, only 5 total students or teenagers actually donated blood, 2 of which being ourselves.
So this brings us into what are the misconceptions that arise when donating blood. And I'll start with the biggest one first, that being iron deficiencies. So as you all hopefully know, iron is really important in the body as it's used in hemoglobin in your red blood cells, which then transport oxygen to your muscles and all your vital organs. So it's really, really important. I think the first thing that I'll start off with is the difference between iron deficiency and anemia. Anemia is any sort of medical condition that is characterized by a low red blood cell count. It can arise due to illnesses or genetic conditions, but one of the ways that it can happen is when you have really low iron levels, which is also known as iron deficiency anemia. This starts when your hemoglobin levels fall below 12 grams per deciliter. It's important to note, however, that you can be iron deficient but not anemic, as iron deficiency anemia only occurs at extreme levels of iron deficiency. One obvious cause of iron deficiency is low dietary iron intake. Another reason, and this one is a lot more applicable to teenagers, is sports-related anemias. I'm not going to get too much into the science behind this, but excessive exercise can contribute to greater iron demands, which leads to greater iron usage and thus losses. Furthermore, studies have shown that for a 3-hour period after donating, the body's absorption of dietary iron is slightly reduced. Additionally, there's hemolysis, which is when your red blood cells break down due to trauma on your feet or something like that. This typically arises when you're running, swimming, biking. And then finally, gastrointestinal bleeding and inflammation are other causes, as well as hematuria. So the main point behind all of this is that sports and other such activities put certain groups at more risk for contracting iron deficiencies than others. And one of the groups that is more at risk is vegetarians, since they have almost no animal tissue in their diet. And animal tissue is generally a more effective source of iron than plant-based diets can offer. Secondly, women, due to natural reproductive mechanisms that happen in their body, they tend to use more iron than men do. And then finally, athletes, especially distance runners, due to sports-related anemias. So in short, iron deficiency anemia is more than just affecting blood donation. You can have a shortness of breath, dizziness, and just not feel your best self. But to keep it relevant to this presentation, how does iron deficiency anemia affect blood donation? Well, if you don't have enough iron levels in your body, you're often deferred from being able to donate, as it can be potentially life-threatening. So then this leads me into what you can do to increase your iron levels. Well, firstly, eating iron-rich and vitamin C-rich foods such as fruits and vegetables. Secondly,
What? No coffee? No coffee?
yeah, laying off on caffeine products, as caffeine is shown to have a pretty big impact on your iron stores in your body. Next, for athletes, having proper sporting equipment and taking your rest days seriously, as that is when your iron stores are replenished in your body. And then finally, if it gets any worse, then obviously going to see a doctor before you actually take any oral iron supplementation on your own.
So another common misconception and way that people don't want to donate is they believe that it'll be like tiring or it'll be dangerous. And so if you look at this graph here, among people who are 5 feet tall, the weight minimum for blood donation is very low. So not many people are actually at risk and in danger when they donate. So this is like not a key relevant reason to not donate. However, there's also health benefits to donating blood. For one, you get a free health screening or physical. So when you go to donate blood, they check your vitals, they check your blood pressure, they check your hemoglobin, and they check your pulse. And not only that, they also check for viruses like HBC and HBV, and they also check for HIV. So when you donate, you will have a lower blood pressure, and this lowers the risk of cardiovascular diseases such as heart attacks. Not only this, but blood donation also lowers blood viscosity, so this decreases the chance of having a blood clot or a stroke. And finally, when you're donating, you're replacing your old blood cells with new ones, and this benefits your immune system as you're making new support in immune cells.
The next misconception I would like to talk about is the issue of the donation process being too long. So I would like to give you a breakdown of the donation process. The first thing you do when you step into a donation clinic is to prepare yourself for the donation. This means having your pre-donation screening by the phlebotomist, making sure your iron levels are up, making sure your body weight is to standard, etc. So that is actually where the majority of your time spent donating will be consumed towards. Next, the second most time-consuming part of the donation process is actually the post-donation process. So once you are done donating, you have to remove all the needles, all of the vital checking things from your body, and you will need to make sure that you are filling yourself with fluids and replacing the fluids you have lost during the donation process. The actual donation is very quick and harmless. The needle is in your arm and extracting your blood for only 3 to 5 minutes out of the average 45-minute donation process. The last misconception I would like to talk about is the fear of needles, and this is actually a big misconception with a lot of people I personally know. So this poses the question, how does donating actually feel? So the initial feeling of the needle entering your arm, as I've heard from many people I'm close with that have donated, the initial feeling is similar to that of a vaccine shot. During the donation, generally no pain is felt. It is actually pretty comfortable because the entire time you'll be laying on a bed. If you are having a platelet donation, which is a much longer donation, you'll be able to watch a movie, watch TV shows, listen to music. You'll be able to actually even have fun during your donation process. And after donating, there is still barely any pain felt. A small mark or bruise may be left where the needle was, and there will be a slight soreness up to a week after donating. However, this pain after the donation process will be nothing compared to even a vaccine shot. This brings me to my last point. If just 1% more of Americans donated blood, shortages in the US would completely disappear. So I urge you guys to make sure you go out and donate after this seminar. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I hope you understand the importance of donating blood.